What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Bombs and Birdies podcast. And today, again, joined by co-host Logan here, and we are going to be recapping the Masters.
Yeah.
So there's lots to talk about.
Yeah, let's do it, man. I mean, what did you think? What was your overall impression, first of all?
First and foremost, I had Bryson was my dark horse like right from the beginning.
Yeah.
So I think he was at the beginning of the event. I think he was like plus 3,500 to win.
Okay.
So I had a little bit of money on him to win, and then he ended up birding the first three holes right out of the chute.
Yeah, he had a hot first day, 65, I think.
65, like low round of the tournament too.
Yeah.
Like nobody else touched that.
Yeah.
So I know he played in the morning, and a lot of guys will say, "Oh, we got the morning wave, didn't get as much wind." True.
Yeah, whatever. That's
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
That's like, okay, maybe a stroke or something.
Yeah,
but,
but it's significant. But he came out birdie the first three holes, and I was like, okay. And a couple buddies, we had some money on the line, so we're like, okay, well let's throw. I threw an extra little bit on him to be the first round leader at the end.
Oh, nice.
At the end of the first round.
Those were good payouts.
And it was it was like, I think it was like 1,400 to 1 or 1,500 to 1, and I was like, yeah, sure, no problem. And then
buddy.
And then he birdied the first three holes. I think he was like, and then I think he birdied I think he bogeyed 9 to shoot 2 under on the front, and then he went on a tear on the back too, and he just like red hot putter, which was exactly what I thought was going to happen because I watched some of his previous live events, and I was like, man, this guy. And then obviously watching him on YouTube, and I was like, man, this guy's a miss.
Yeah, I think that what got a lot of people was the greens were difficult. I know even on the fifth green they had some trouble because they had reconstructed that green.
Yeah. And
a lot of guys just like were not getting the break and really struggling with that putt. And I think that's what we saw throughout the tournament. Like after day one, it looked like the scores were going to be really low. And then after that, like people struggled. Like I think no one shot 7 under, one guy.
Yeah. Bryson was 7 on day one, and then I don't think anybody touched it. Like Tom Kim shot, I think 4 or 5 under in the last round.
Yeah.
But there was nobody that touched more than
that,
like 2 or 3 under.
But and then even finishing, right? It was like -4 was like the three-way tie, and then second was Oberg was second, I think, at 7.
6. I think he was 6, and then somebody else was, and then Morikawa was like I think at 4.
Yeah,
and then it just kind of fell
like
off the course. There was less than 10 guys under par.
It was crazy, yeah. And then for Scheffler though, now I want to talk about this because we've seen a few guys come out and have hot starts on tour, right? And there's a few you can, notably I think Jordan Spieth came out with a breakout year when he won two majors, right? In the same year. And now we've got Scheffler winning back-to-back Masters. Do you think this is going to be more like a Spieth sort of situation where he wins a couple, he has a really hot year or so, and then he cools off, or is Scheffler just going to keep taking it to him?
I think that he's going to have probably as good... I think he's going to have just as big of a career as Tiger is.
Wow.
To be completely honest, because I mean, like he's only 27.
Yeah.
Like he's still and he looks like he's 40, but like he's still so young.
Yeah.
And he's one of the only guys that I've seen in like the last 10 years that has been that consistent. And I think he's, I mean, for him to win, like his odds were like even in the negatives. Like it was almost a guarantee, which was kind of ridiculous. And normally when you have that type of pressure going in, it doesn't really go out that way. But yeah, to be able to have. I think he's missed one time in the last 5 attempts at playing in the Masters. He's only missed the cut once.
Right.
And then he's been in the top 10 or in the top 3 the other 4 times.
Yeah, he's been an incredible bet on just about every major championship, I think, if you go towards Scotty Scheffler. And it's going to be a little weird because obviously on the PGA Tour, we might see him win a lot of regular events.
Correct.
And that's where things are going to get a little convoluted through history if this like sort of separation in the tours goes on for too long. I think people are going to discredit a lot of those. But I think when he comes out and performs at like the majors like this, it just adds so much credit because like it doesn't matter if there's 20, 30, 40 other guys there if you still would have beat them all. And like that's what we saw at the major was like, okay, we had all these players that didn't normally play and he still like absolutely took them to the cleaners, I think. And it looked like it was going to be tight there on Sunday. There was a moment where it looked like it was going to be a lot of drama, and then everyone else just seemed to crumble, and he just kept his cool, and then not even just was steady. He actually like tore up the last.
Yeah, I think everybody started to fall. Everybody kind of started to, I wouldn't say fall apart, and I wouldn't even say like push the envelope, but I think one of the biggest, like on Saturday when he made that double, I think it was on 12 or 11, and then he ended up eagling 13.
Yeah.
So like that set him back, and then making that eagle put him right back in the tournament. And which was kind of wild because I think it was one of the only eagles of the week. Like I don't think there was many, and normally 13 plays like very
there was
under
not
par.
a lot though this time, and I think that I don't know if it was like they chose difficult pins, but it seemed to play like pretty difficult, I would say, compared to like past Masters that I've seen.
It played like a U.S. Open.
Yeah.
It was, the greens were, and you could tell on Sunday the greens were completely burnt out.
Mm-hmm. They don't normally look like that.
Like, I think it was Rory and one other guy 4-putted 13 from this, like hit into and 4 putt. Like guys don't do that, right?
No.
So to be able to have the golf course play that firm and fast, and guys were coming off the golf course in the press conference and the interviews that were like, I've never seen the golf course play that hard.
Yeah.
13T was chucked back 30 yards.
Yeah,
so they made that hole longer. So you literally, guys could not really turn the corner. And if you did take on the corner, you still had like 220.
Yeah,
you're
hitting like you didn't see guys holding that green. I saw so many balls where I think guys hit a perfect shot that would have been perfect before, but now that it's such a longer iron, which is so important for distance, right, in this case. And Tiger talks about how he's trying to hit it high again because he can't turn the same way he used to be able to, because that's like the big advantage that he had. He hit it higher than anyone.
Yeah.
But you'd see a lot of balls come into that green and they just fly off the back into that sort of like little dip collection area behind before the bunkers, and that was sort of the best you saw. A few guys were able to hold the green, but you weren't able to like attack the pin or anything.
No,
that's for sure.
And I think that goes for like almost every green.
Yeah,
because like I said, like they made the greens so firm and fast, and you can't tell on TV like how much slope that golf course has.
Everyone says that when they go, they're like it's
so crazy. Like it's like there's turtlebacks here and there's subtle little ridges here and there, but to be able to have the golf course play that firm and fast when normally it plays a little bit softer, like shorter and softer. So you used to see guys shoot 15 to 20 under over the course of 4 days.
Yeah.
And now you got one guy in the entire field that gets into the double digits. Like that pretty much played like a U.S. Open at like 68 to 7,000. Like it was just so crazy to see. Even guys were hitting wedges into greens and they're just like doink doink doink, and it was just like they just weren't being able to get it close or be aggressive from anywhere.
Yeah, I think it's a great example of why the game does not need to be longer.
No,
it's just really it's a silly concept in my opinion. They don't need to make the golf ball shorter. In my opinion, I don't think they need to roll it back. We're seeing some of the greatest golf in history. It's really exciting. If you looked at like any time in the history of golf, this would be up there for like, I'd say probably top 3 most exciting. Like obviously like Tiger's run was way up there. I think Scheffler will go on a similar run. I think it'll be somewhere between what we saw with Tiger and then what we saw with like Rory. I think it's going to be somewhere in the middle there where, I don't think he will get to 15 majors necessarily. Like that's a tall tale to ask. We could probably have this conversation in 8 years and have a different opinion, but right. If he won 3 or 4 in a row, then that changes things real fast, which I could definitely see happening. But, and I think it's also a more difficult time too. I would say if Scheffler even got to 10 majors, that might be the equivalent of Tiger's 15. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, well, like you said, like it's that rule might be okay because the guys, like both tours, are obviously going to have the ability to play in all the majors now. So it's like that, like nothing will be tainted or have an asterisk next to it.
Right.
Whereas, like you said, like some of the other PGA Tour events will. But I think, like I said, I think he's going to have just as good of a career, or it's going to be really darn close comparatively to Tiger, because he's one of the only guys that has been that consistent, and he's been known for like not having the best putting stats,
right?
And he's been switching putters a little bit here and there, and I think that he's still got it figured out for not having a bad, or for having a bad putt, for having a bad putter, right? So, but it's amplified when you go to Augusta, and a bunch of guys say this too, is like there's so much subtle break, the greens are so fast. And you saw, sorry, to go back to your previous point in the sense of you don't need to make the golf course longer, 100%.
Right.
Because you've made the golf course longer twice already in the last like 5 or 10 years from Augusta. So you've already stretched it as far as you can. There's no more real estate.
Yeah.
Like you can't stretch it anymore. You can stretch some of the par 5s, and you saw that. Even on 13, you saw guys that were just like hitting 3 woods and 5 woods just like straight away, and they would have to either lay up or it'd be like another wood in.
Well, yeah, that's something I don't think they totally understand either, is like, you can make the course longer and longer, and the players are getting longer and longer, yes, but the further you go, the dispersion does become higher. And I think we're at a really good spot right now. I don't think anyone's saying golf isn't exciting. Like, it's the most exciting it's ever been. Like, guys that are tour, they're really great athletes right now. I don't know, like, maybe I mean, it's all percentage wise is the crazy thing. Like you roll back the golf ball, and everyone just is hitting at the same percentage at like a lower distance.
Well, you're gonna get guys now like Brian Harmon is never gonna get his card back.
Yeah.
Guys that are in the lower end of the spectrum of like 110 club head speed, maybe pushing 115. Like you're not gonna see those guys anymore because you're not the golf ball.
They just made the golf course way longer, so how would
Yeah,
Brian Harmon feel about that, essentially?
Yeah, so like,
right?
but there's the argument of guys will say like, oh, well, it's not going to affect guys that are that slow. That's not true. And like Bryson even showcased that on one of his last videos because he tested that ball,
Right.
or at least a version of that ball,
Yeah.
where it was like the Nike Ignite ball from way back in the day versus the Titleist Pro V1X that he plays right now, which is one of the fastest golf balls on the planet, highest compression as well.
Yeah.
So it's like he's making the same golf swing, and he's losing 15 to 20 yards on a tee shot.
Yeah.
Like that's like from a carry perspective, that's actually
Huge.
significant,
Yeah.
right? So guys are going to tweak their equipment. They're going to maybe make the lofts a touch stronger to counteract, maybe add another club in the bag to kind of counteract that the golf ball rollback, and then it's going to be right back to where it was. So guys and manufacturers, at least at the tour level, will make it so those guys don't lose as much as the average person.
You know what's so weird about that too is like it's almost going to make like blades obsolete. Right, because if they're going to roll back the golf ball and change the distance, like why would I choose a blade, or I could choose these like absolutely juiced up. So I was hitting blades in a club fitting, and like hitting some Mura blades, and then I went and tried the TaylorMade like P790, and I was just hitting 7-iron like 220, and it was so stupid. It was just like, why do these things go 30 yards further, right?
Yeah, so sometimes it's loft based, sometimes it's CG based, sometimes
it's a combination of
it's probably
both,
a combination of a couple things.
Yeah.
But yeah, you're just going to see guys like jack their lofts a little bit.
Yeah.
You guys are going to see they're just going to get a little bit faster, and they're going to jack the lofts, and then they're going to be right back to where they were before. So
you jack the loft down, you lower the center of gravity, and now you have the same ball flight with more distance. And that's just, except like if you look at clubs from 15 years ago to now, that's all they've done.
Yeah.
Well, that's not all they've done. There's a
Right.
lot of other designs.
But you're seeing like almost every driver on the planet is giving guys at least 15 to 20 extra yards, like just from a technological standpoint. So by the time this golf ball rollback becomes in effect, it's not even going to be relevant anymore. Like the companies are not going to make clubs slower. They're just going to continue to make the faces thinner. They're going to continue to maneuver the CG around. They're going to continue to make the ball fly straighter, because now we're getting to the point where even from we're getting way off topic here, but like even getting in the realm of like the new Callaway equipment, like the AI stuff, you're getting guys that are going to be they're going to be speccing drivers custom to that individual.
Yeah.
So like the AI Smoke right now is a club where it has like 5 or 6 different center points on the driver club face. So like you're not losing as much distance. You actually might be gaining yardage in different spots over the course
on
of the
mishits.
on mishits. And then now it's like, well, now he's customizing it, let's say to a Xander Schauffele, where he's like, oh, well, his tendency is to miss it more in the heel. So they're going to tailor an AI design the club face.
They can make a club for Schauffele,
specifically
right?
for him. So we are in a technological era right now where like, roll the golf ball back as much as you want. The companies are going to figure out a way to make it beneficial for the player.
Yeah. Well, here's a crazy one. You look back like 15, 20 years and you tell people that drivers were going to be adjustable. Like you could change, and it was like, whatever. I remember the R9 came out and it was the first one. And people were like, that's so gimmicky and stuff like that. And now you look, every club has that.
Yep.
So I could totally see in the future you'd buy like a golf, or they might freaking 3D print your club there on the spot, right?
That's what they're doing.
They might get you to do some swings, and now Bryson's got these 3D printed irons that were approved the week of the Masters.
Yep.
Like, I think we'll see that sort of thing happen.
Yeah, and like, so just so everybody understands, like the bulge, I've never personally seen it, and I don't know the exact science behind it, but I know the bulge and roll, especially at higher speeds, is supposed to help more. So essentially, like, there's going to be more cupping on the front of the face. So on
like a
mishits,
driver. So if you look at a driver, it's not flat like an iron. It's
correct,
curved.
Whereas like the driver now, that's why he's playing this crank fire long drive head. He's playing it at 6 degrees because it has more bulge and roll. So his miss hits. This is what I don't understand. The miss hits should actually be greater, because when I used to do long drive full time, like the more bulge and roll at those speeds, the bigger the miss hit. So
right.
Like, because what happens is the deflection point is actually going to be twice as much. So normally, if the face, like if you hit it off the toe and the face, if you hit it off the toe and the face opens, the ball will actually spin left and more or less draw. And if you hit it off the heel, the face closes, but the ball counteracts and it's going to fade. So at those types of speed with that little aloft, the dispersion should be actually twice as great.
Yeah, it's almost the opposite of the twist face from TaylorMade. Right?
Yeah.
The only thing I heard was it's supposed to be improve gear effect.
That's what that is. Like that is what gear effect is. Like it's a deflection of like how the ball comes off the face. So like I said, if the club face comes in open, or sorry, if the club face comes in square and you ding it off the toe, the deflection point is going to make the ball spin in the opposite direction. And then the other same thing, like for a righty, and then the same thing from the opposite perspective. If you hit it on the heel, the deflection point or the face will close. The deflection point will spin in the opposite direction.
Yeah.
But at those types of speeds, it shouldn't happen. So what he did was he was finding, and I have this issue as well. Whereas if I flush an iron and if I'm off just at my speed, swinging a 7-iron like 105 miles an hour, if I miss it by literally just a groove, my accentuated dispersion pattern is fucking wild. Like it's all over the map. So these 3D printed bulge and rolls, which is wild to think about. I don't know if it would help or not, but it obviously helped him. He's finding that on his miss hits, the ball is actually flying straighter, almost like he's having with this driver stuff, which is. I mean, I'm not going to say that was the difference of him shooting 65. He didn't follow it up, but at the same time, I think for him, he didn't necessarily hit it more poorly. I think he just wasn't able to put the ball in the hole, and he was a little bit tentative on the greens.
It was really tough for everyone. I mean, there's no like,
100%,
and that's a different thing. Like winning majors is a crazy, and he's done it before for sure. Mm-hmm. But everyone's trying to win that major too, right? And these are all the best competitors in the world, right? Mm-hmm. Which brings me to like an interesting question. If we talk about sort of the greatest golfers that have been up and coming recently, one that definitely comes to mind is Victor Hovland. He won the FedEx last year, right? He's been generally a top 10 competitor in majors. Mm-hmm. Really young guy, athletic, beautiful swing. He fixed his short game last year. Which
shout out Joseph Mayo.
Which was a struggle of his. He hits the ball a mile, and he does it effortlessly. But I've heard rumors that he's might be getting a live tour offer.
Victor, okay.
In which case I have a question, because we see guys like Brooks coming back and playing these majors. John Rahm will be able to come back and play the Masters for the rest of his life. It's not that big of an issue.
Yeah.
Guys like Victor Hovland haven't won that yet, right? And so you've got like guys like Matthew Wolff who already switched over to live, right? They can't play in these majors.
No.
And that seems like a crazy thing to decide. Almost like this Anthony Kim case where he sort of took the money and ran, and then showed up 15 years later with a collapsed nose and face and everything, right? And I think he really regrets taking the money now, and he said he had a lot of fun when he was doing it.
No shit.
He thought he was having fun, but now looking back, he was not having fun, right? No. So it's kind of an interesting thing, like, to see who is going to take the money and run. Because at the same time, when you also are young in your career and you're not established, then the money means a lot more to you. But I guess a guy like him, he did win, what, 15 million?
Yeah, it was something like... Yeah, the FedEx was worth 15 million.
Yeah, because he played this year because he performed well last year.
Yeah, his world ranking points were in a place where he could do it, but again...
And you would kind of get like a year to have a chance, but if you don't do well, all of a sudden it's like, sorry, you're not playing majors anymore.
And you only have the majors to do well in, because you're not playing a PGA Tour anymore.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that... It's going to be tough. I mean, Victor's so young, though. He's still like 26, 28 or whatever. He's still so young, and I know he's actually one of my favorite players on the PGA Tour, if I'm being honest. Like, I love the way he approaches everything, and like you said, like him and Joseph Mayo went crazy wild with his short game, and I think that's a big thing that's been debunked again. Like, I was always a big proponent of being very, very steep with how I chip and how I pitch,
right?
And I think we got away from this over the last 10 years, where guys would get very, very shallow and try to use the bounce. Guys, the bounce is there as the bounce on the wedge is designed to use the bounce.
Right.
You being shallow doesn't accentuate using the bounce.
Yeah.
Like if you are into if you cut into grass with anything, with whatever type of wedge you want, it's going to use the bounce. That's what it's fucking designed to do. That's why it's there. If you didn't have any bounce, it would just dig and continue to dig.
Yeah, like the old school wedges from 100 years ago.
You're seeing guys getting away from that now, and especially around Augusta, you had to do that. So he was actually a dark horse of mine as well. But anyway, without getting too off topic, I think that I don't think guys like that early in their career will take it because they have so much upside potential with the PGA Tour. And I was actually shocked that he didn't perform as well in the Masters. And like one of the things that really pissed me off was that like he kind of dog-fucked that last putt. I think it was on 15, the par 5.
I didn't see it.
So he hits the green and he misses his putt, and he kind of like walks over and kind of like dinks it with his putter to kind of tap it in from a foot, and he misses it. He ends up missing the cut by one. Like, he was right on the cut line, and the cut line was progressively moving one shot. I think it started at 3 over on the day and ended at 5.
Right.
Or maybe, I'm pretty sure it ended at 5.
Around there, yeah.
And then he kicked it, he dog-fucked that last putt, and then ends up missing the cut by one. It's like it's such a fickle sport where you have to be so on literally until the last putt goes in because you never ever know.
Yeah, and it's not about, and that's I think the mindset difference between results oriented or process oriented, right? Is like a process oriented player, the shots that came before don't matter, and the shots that come after don't matter. It's like, can you get in the zone in this moment and make that putt happen? And that leads to things down the road, right? But you don't have control over the shot.
No.
An hour from now.
Correct.
You have control over the shot right now.
Yeah.
And I think he just kind of lost his cool a little bit there, missed it. And I think that's, honestly, if I had to point to one reason why I think Scheffler will have such great success, even compared to Rory and Brooks and DJ and these guys, is he doesn't have that hot head. He seems very humble. He said that he was going to leave the Masters if his wife was going into labor, right? Yeah. So... I think he's grounded that way. I think that golf's important to him, but like he even said in his Green Jacket interview, he's like, this means so much to me and stuff. And he was like praising his life, but that an even bigger thing was coming, which was like his child. Right. And, I think that headspace is just perfectly set up to be successful at an event like the Masters.
The dead opposite of Tiger.
Yeah. I think Tiger, you hear him now talk about like how much he loves his kids and how he, there's more important things than golf, which is his kids and stuff. And, Tiger was so focused and so process oriented. You'll hear guys talk about that. I think he was very definitely invested and ego invested in his golf, which probably led to his downfall at one point too of the crisis and the car crashes and the scandals and whatnot. Was that he probably didn't have an identity outside of golf, where it seems like Scheffler has that stable identity out of golf.
Yeah, and I mean, I think that is a huge testament to his wife Meredith, to be completely honest.
Right.
Because it's like if you don't have a lot of the guy's success, and you'll hear a lot of guys talk about this as well. I know Mito Pereira talks about this too. He's like, if you don't have a good home life and you don't have things set outside of the golf course in a good spot, and you're stressed out, you're a mental space cadet like out there, and I can speak to that as well because like I've been in that position where outside factors when I'm playing have started to creep in, and my life was not in the best spot, and then it's like you're standing over a golf shot and you're thinking about a fight you had with your spouse, or you're standing over a golf shot and you're like thinking about business stuff, or you're standing over a golf shot and thinking about a million other things. It's like, dude, like I can't even be present right now. Like there's not even a point of me being
That's the
here.
worst. And then when you're at work doing the business or whatever, then you're thinking about golf.
It's the dead opposite, right? So it's really hard to be present. So I think part of that was because I know Tiger didn't have a spouse for a while, right? Like obviously he wanted to be solidified in his career, and that's great, that's fine. But like you said, I think that was part of the downfall. But dude, he was really impressive, man. I thought so. His short game was like top tier. I think he missed two or three fairways all week, which is wild. Which is for him off the tee. He was the most erratic player off the tee. But you put an iron in his hand, and he was like. And he was God. Oh, yeah. Right?
And he was the escape artist, right? He could get out of anything. And, you put him anywhere in the fairway, it's, good luck.
But now, and then he was, like, flushing these, like, high cut fades at, like, 180, 175, 180 ball speed. And I was like, man, imagine if he was able to do this in his prime.
That's the thing I don't think people understand. These technologies for, like, club speed and everything are relatively new.
Yeah.
But you look at Tiger now with fused back, knee surgeries, like I don't know, he's got like 30 surgeries, right? 2 car accidents, etc. He's almost 50 years old, and he's still swinging the golf club at like 123.
It's like in the upper teens.
And like that's what speed means, guys. Like it's not like this is something that, and I got another story about Jack Nicklaus actually. I guess Jack Nicklaus never had these technologies back in the day, right? And the first time he was ever on a launch monitor, a TrackMan or something similar, he measured his ball speed at 125 miles per hour, or his club speed at 125 miles per hour. He was like 57,
which is fucking insane.
Those numbers are. I'm a little bit making them up at the spot, but it was in the mid to high 120s, and he was like in his 50s or 60s. It was like much later in life, and he was still swinging it that fast, right?
Which is insane.
So you can just imagine, like in his prime, Jack was a fast guy, and it's just the common denominator among great players in the world. They're not slow.
No.
Tiger was not slow. Phil Mickelson was not slow either, right? Like, you look at modern players, Scheffler's not slow, Rory's not slow, Dustin Johnson's not slow.
Bryson,
like, pick every single guy who's been in the, you know, the number one position over the last years. It's never a bunter who hits it like 260.
Yeah, because it's like that. But the thing is people will use the one outlier. They're like, oh well, Brian won the U.S. Open that one time, and it's like, okay, there's always going to be.
You can't win.
Yeah, 100%. It's just you're giving yourself an enormous advantage, and I know that everybody will use that one outlier as an example, and they will put their identity in it. And it's like, okay, well, you're looking at one thing that happened, and it's a complete outlier, and there's always going to be an exception to the rule, always, and that's exactly why Brian had won the U.S. Open last year. Right, he was the one guy, but he also had Scotty nipping on his heels.
Oh yeah,
right. So it's like you have to understand that Scotty's going to have way more chances than Brian ever will.
Yeah.
And especially once this ball. I mean, Brian's a little bit older now; he might retire soon. But once this ball rollback kicks back in, you're going to see a lot of guys either not be able to make the tour or fall off and lose their cards because of that.
Yeah.
So you're going to start to see guys that are in the low to mid teens that are going to have to get into the low to mid 120s just to keep their card.
Yeah. That's the funny thing when we were talking about, like, on the golf course the other day, is like, name a fat guy on tour now.
You don't.
And we couldn't.
They're all athletes now.
They're all athletes. Even if they're
now.
carrying a little bit of weight, they're so fit underneath that. We're like, who is even like the biggest guy on tour right now? It's like, I don't know, man. John Rahm's like a little bigger than some guys, but like that guy's jacked, dude, and he's not even big. You know what I'm saying? Like, he's like in good shape.
I think he's like, actually, we looked this up. I think he's like 6'3" or 6'2" or 6'3", like 220. Like,
yeah.
He's like. Nothing ridiculous.
Yeah, so he's not going to go to the beach and look like, Ben Hogan or something. But, Ben Hogan was like jacked back in the day. That's another one. They used to talk about it. There was this story of him. They were explaining how strong he was that he could take a beer can and crush it with his bare hand, which doesn't sound like much now. But they're like, no, that was like half an inch thick aluminum, like back in the day. The average person could not do that, and he would just crush it like it was nothing. So, I mean, you got to swing fast to hit one irons like he did, right?
Oh, yeah, and just to get them airborne. And, like, and even food for thought, just for everybody else, like, grip strength is, like, directly correlated with clubhead speed. Like, it's like
we were doing that with the grip tester.
Like it's not like the factor, but it is a factor.
Huge factor,
right?
Yeah.
It's no different than trying to pick up something. If you were to try to pick up like a deadlift in the gym, if you don't have straps, it's going to feel really heavy.
Yeah.
If you do have straps, it doesn't feel as heavy. Yeah. So it's like, okay, well, let's apply the same concept to gaining speed. It's like if we get your grip stronger, you're going to be able to not necessarily apply more force into the golf club and like create more tension, but you're going to be able to grip the club, which applies a lot more force to be able to actually apply force into the golf club, which is going to produce more speed just on its own. You don't have to swing faster.
Yeah, well, you'll be applying the same pressure at the same with and it'll feel like you're holding it lighter. You'll be more relaxed, less tense, right? And that's the thing is like a lot of people carry tension in their swing, which leads to all these bad swing habits. Which leads to erratic shots and all kinds of different things. When you can simplify the swing and have the strength to do the moves correctly, then it all becomes so much easier. You hit it so much straighter. The furthest, like the longest players that I know playing golf are also the most accurate players I know playing golf.
100%.
Yeah.
The faster I swing, the straighter I hit it.
Like if you actually just wanted to hit it in the fairway every time, by hitting it short, you would bunt it like 150 to 180. And that's called old man golf.
Well, yeah,
right, and it works, but those guys can only they make bogeys, and that's good if they get up and down, they make a par. But you can't rely on getting up and down. Yeah, and
they're also like chasing. They're also chasing their balls onto the green. Yeah. Like it's like, okay, well, let's talk about like if you were to have to chase every ball in the green, if there's a hazard, a bunker, or if there's not like this little gradual run up area, like, you're fucked.
You're screwed.
You know what I mean? Like you're in the bunker, you're 2 or 3 out of the bunker, and then you're 4 putting. Like it's just like there's just so much chaos. But that was like that's good. Who's your pick for this week?
I don't know that much where they're playing this week. Even
they're playing at the RBC. Heritage.
Yeah. I mean
at Harbortown.
I think right away the pick. So I've done really well in major pools lately. Yeah. I actually won this past.
This is kind of a major.
I won.
It's kind of a back-to-back major week.
Like I won the Masters pool. It was like 100 guys.
Oh, nice.
And I came first in that one. And then of the last 4 last year, I won one, came second in another, came third in the other, and then I was completely obliterated in the fourth. Yeah. But to make the top 3 in like the last couple. And my picks are pretty simple, man. Like I do go for Scheffler a lot. Oh. He's so steady.
Yeah.
When Rahm was in the mix, he was definitely a top pick for me. I mean, Rory he's too much in his head right now, in my opinion.
I think
And that
so too.
you see moments of greatness for him where he goes out and shoots like a 63, and you're like, my God, he's back, and you want him to be back so much.
So bad.
But I don't know. When I look at him, I look at a guy who thinks a lot. And I actually remember an old video of him when, you know, those TaylorMade videos. It was like Tiger and Jason Day and Dustin. They're all like hanging out, and it would be like Tiger Woods trying to explain something, and then Rory would almost like cut him off and explain how he does it.
Yeah.
And I was like, just sit back and listen to Tiger do it,
man.
man. Like, and you know, I'm not calling Rory a cocky guy or anything, but I think he gets in his head and he's so excited to like talk or do that it's like he could almost just step back and like listen a little bit more.
Dude, I remember one of those interviews, and Jason Day was like, and said to Tiger, because Tiger explains everything like very complex,
Right.
And that's how he thinks. And then Jason was like, could you just explain anything in like normal person terms, like at all? Because like Jason's not as technical, but it's funny because like I think that's partially why why Bryson and Tiger are so close, because they're very nerdy about the game,
Right.
which is really cool. So that was a good talk, man. I'm glad to see. I'm curious to see who's going to take home Harbour Town this week.
Yeah.
It's going to be a ball striking golf course because it's tight. A lot of twists and turns. You got to shape the ball both ways. Let us know in the comments who you guys thinking is win Harbour Town this week. Logan and I are done for today. If you guys have anything else you guys are looking to see, obviously drop it in the comments. We'd love to chat about what you guys want to talk about next. And as always, stay fast, and we'll see you for the next one.